Hey, I am super pumped to have Travis here helping us out, bringing the word for us. I'm going to sit there and take notes and listen, all right?
All right.
I'm not grading, I'm just listening. But anyways, I am going to pray for this man here and for our time here tonight. Y'all join me in prayer. God, thank you so much for Travis and for the word that you're going to bring through him. Lord, I pray that the students would be attentive. I pray that you would open up their ears, open their hearts, and that we would receive what you have to say through Travis tonight, God. We so are thankful for men like him and for the story that he has and for the way that you have worked in his life, God. I pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Here you go, pal.
All right. Thank you. So, good news is I don't have another story for you. I got two stories. So first off, I want to say thank you for being here. Every time I have an opportunity to talk to you guys or be around you guys, any of these events that we do together, it's always a blessing to me to be able to hang out with you guys because y'all are really, just really awesome. Tonight, I just ask that we all participate the best. I'm not going to go into deepest, darkest secrets, that kind of stuff, but I just want some yays and some nays, okay? Like, yep, been there, done that, or not, okay? So, raise hands. Who here says, I'm good? Who's my good people? Are you good? You're not good? You're on the fence? That is vague. So, Mark 10:18 says, Jesus says, good teacher, good teacher. And Jesus says, why are you calling me good? Nobody's good except for the Father. So it's kind of hard for me to swallow, hanging out with you guys, being the best teens I've ever met in my life. I met a bunch of teens back when I was a teen. You all are awesome, okay? So to say that y'all aren't good, hard to say, but we all have a lot of room for improvement, okay? So, show of hands, who has broken a rule? Yeah. Okay. Who knew it was a rule when you broke it? Okay. Who didn't know that it was a rule and someone told you it was a rule? Yeah? Yeah, been there? Okay. Who found out, like, after the fact, though? Like, it was, like, well after the fact. And you're like, oh, man, okay. So, we're going to go into two classic stories that opens up the door for God to communicate with people and say, what are you doing? Who here has been breaking a rule, got caught, interrupted by a guardian, parent, or somebody and said, what are you doing? Right? How many of you think that they knew what you were doing when they asked that question? Yeah. So that's the thing I want us all to ask is, why is the Father of the universe, the creator of all, why is he going to ask the why question if he knows everything? He knows the timeline. He knows the whole agenda, right? So you all probably already know the why, right? So starting in 3:9, it says, so God called out to the man, says, where are you? Do we know this story? Yeah? No? Who was the man? Adam, right? So what was he doing? He was hiding, right? Why was he hiding? Because he was ashamed. So what did he tell God? The woman you gave me made me do it. Okay, and then he asked the woman in Genesis 3:13, what have you done? Right? The serpent made me do it. Thank you. I didn't even have to ask on that one. So we see the blame game here. They made me. Right? When God's asking, what are you doing? When he already knows the answer. So keep that in the back of the mind. Why are we asking this if we already know the answer? So when we're caught, when we're doing something wrong, we're breaking rules, how many of us have an excuse for what we were doing? Made the complaint to the parent, I was doing it because of this. Yep. We always are trying to justify breaking the rules. As humans since the beginning of time are rule breakers. because we always get in our own heads. So, one cool Jesus moment from that story, I just thought I'd point it out, is when they're leaving the garden and they're ashamed. They were what? What did God do for them for their shame? He clothed them, right? He covered their shame with what? Animal skin, right? So, to me, that's a huge Jesus moment, right? I wonder what that animal was. The first death was in Eden, right? And then they used that blood, that animal, to cover that shame. So that's cool. Anyways, moving on, second story. Who here has been angry? Okay. Who acted upon that anger? Whether it's text messages, verbally talking, physical altercations, you had an anger moment and you acted on it. Okay? All of us, right? Has anybody been stopped from being angry or intervened and said, had a parent, guardian, somebody say, hey, why are you angry? Okay. What's wrong with you? Why are you angry? So Genesis 4:6 says, why are you furious and why do you look despondent? Despondent is the opposite of respondent. Respondent means I'm acting out of my realm of being, of seeing, of doing. Things happen, we react, we're being responsive. Despondent is where you're totally disengaged, zoned out, stuck in your head, fuming, just totally not focused on the bigger picture. You're just stuck in your head. Who are we talking about right now? Come on, you know there's trivia? Anybody know who this person is that God's talking to? Why are you angry? What? Cain. So he's talking to Cain and he says, why are you angry? Why was he angry? He favored his offering. So it seems almost like knowing that God was the antagonist in the situation, hey, we had two offerings, he chose this one over this one, it almost seems like gaslighting, right? Like, how could you, they both came with something, right? That was the rule, that was the thing. They both came with something, but God chose one over the other. What the issue is the heart and the why. So when we look in the version I chose, it says that when Cain brought, he brought some of the land's produce. Not he brought the produce that he slaved over hours and hours and hours for months trying to get to grow. He went, picked some wild berries, found what he could. The rule is just bring something, right? Just bring something to God's potluck. So he just went, did the bare minimum, picked whatever he could, said, yep, that's good enough. Now, I'm a hunter, and I've taken quite a few animals' lives. And there's nothing that's really great about that other than for eating, consumption, that kind of thing. And I don't know how many of you have been there, done that, but there's a special thing about being in that situation with an animal, a creature that you can't breathe life into, but you've removed it. Abel raised sheep. He watched these things get born. He was with the moms. He was with them through the whole process. He didn't have Disney, so I don't think he named them, but he had to do the deed. And that is very strenuous spiritually and emotionally. And then not only did he bring the first offerings of them, but he also gave the fat portions as well, the best part, right? And said that he's going to surrender this. So don't think Cain really regretted chopping off the stalk on some carrots. Abel's in a much different place, gave his best. So we go back to, why am I hearing this classic story over and over again? I want you to think about the why part, the heart of this whole issue. So what's the outcome? One's favored over the other one gets angry, does what? Kills him, right? God intervened, though. It's one of the times that God actually intervenes before it happens, says, hey, if you continue down this path, your sin's crouching at your door. You have an opportunity to stop. Focus on me. I still love you. God didn't cast him out. He came to him ahead of time and said, hey, I'm here for you. I see you're upset, but if you continue being upset, you're going to have some problems. He tries to coach him on it. So the next part is he asks him, where's your brother at? How many people have siblings? Oh, okay. Ever done something to a sibling? Ever had the parent come and find you and try to get more of the story with the sibling behind them? So Abel, imagine this with me. Abel's not on the planet anymore, right? His blood's crying out from the ground. Where's Abel? God knows where Abel is. Abel's behind God, right? He needs Cain to say it. And what does Cain do? I don't know. I'm not his keeper. I don't know. Ultimately, God knows these things that we're doing. Your parents know these things that you're doing. You don't have the timeline. They have the timeline, or what they perceive to be the timeline, your parents. God knows the ultimate timeline. So we get caught up a lot of times in thinking, well, if God's omnipotent, he knows everything, he knows the beginning to the end, why is he going to ask people why? And it's not for him to understand, it's for you to understand. It's a time of self-reflection and going, why did I do this? Where did that come from? And oftentimes, what do? We say, my brother, my sister, my neighbor made me do this. We are in the same position. Well, you favored them. Well, they pulled on my strings. They made me do this. And we make the excuse, and we think we're reasoning. So I got a quote from yours truly, but children have excuses. Adults make reasons for things. Children don't know the end of their actions. They're in just constant here to here mode, right? They're not stopping and thinking. And they oftentimes don't have the ability to think like that, right? It comes with age, maturity, wisdom. So they get excused. The parent says, yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing, or she doesn't know what she's doing. I'm going to forgive this, we're going to excuse this, and try to coach and train and teach. And then when you're older, more mature, people expect you to reason with them. This is not so much the case with God. What does God call us? Does he call us his adults or his children? Right. And why are we his children? Not only did he make us, but because we don't know the end of our actions. We don't know what's coming at the end of that rope that we're pulling on. So sometimes we get caught up in ourselves and thinking that it was all on us, the things that we did, the regrets. You have forgiveness. It's all about the way you ask for it. It's all about where your heart is in the issue. So there are no legitimate adults. And whenever an adult tries to make a reason with God for things, it doesn't go that well. Because when your parents make the rules of the house and you break those rules, do you need to be excused, or are you going to make a reason for yourself for doing that? And the answer is you need to be excused and have that sorrowful heart of, I did this, I acknowledge I did this, and it is against the house rules. It's not okay in this house. When we reason with God, we say, I know better than you. I know what my actions are leading to. I know I made the right judgment call here. And we can't do that with God. It doesn't work. And that's why it doesn't work with your parents. So what does it have to do with you, and why even bring it up? And I'm going to kind of equip you with something at the end of this, but I want to look at some people, because the Bible's full of great examples of what not to do. So why does Cain get to do what he does and gets punished, but then we have some other people that did some bad things and they were ultimately rewarded or even favored? So looking at Abraham's life, he lied. He tried to force God's will a couple times with Sarah. We all know that story, hopefully. But ultimately, what did he want? He wanted God's will to be done. He wanted God's will. So sometimes we want God's will so bad that we try to force things, right? We have Jonah. Jonah ran from God. He didn't like people. He also didn't like the enemies that his nation was up against. And he knew how powerful his God would work if he would go do what he said. He ran. Ultimately, he does it. Moses had anger management issues really bad. Kills a guy, kills the slave master, breaks the tablets. They spent 40 days preparing on a mountain. Then God's like, hey, talk to a rock. And he's like, he couldn't even do that. He couldn't just talk to the rock like God said. He hits it. He's angry. Right? That ultimately it got him disqualified from the promised land. But he still lived good. He lived a good old age. But his heart was of love. He was passionate and he loved his people. He didn't like injustice. So his why was for righteous reasons. Peter attempts murder, abandons God. Jesus, right? Jesus comes back and says, hey, do you love me? Yes. You love me? Yes. You love me? Yes. Okay, then feed my sheep. Take care of my sheep. That's why he's the rock, right? Jesus knows the end of the timeline. That's why when he did his business, Jesus didn't go, deuces, get out. Sorry, I'm not going to fly here. No, he knows. But Peter's a child, right? So my favorite, Saul/Paul, he loved God's rules. He loved God's ways of doing things. He was a passionate Pharisee. He was all about the law and God and loved him so much that he couldn't see what was going on. He didn't believe in Jesus. He didn't believe all these things that were happening, and it was causing problems amongst his church, his God that he loved. He thought it was contradictory. He didn't believe in it, and ultimately he started persecuting, approving of murder, and he was on his way to chase down some more Christians when he got intervened. God didn't say, hey, you're going straight to the pit, man. No, he said, wow, I love your drive. I love that you love me. I love that you love my ways so much. But hey, I am here. I'm Jesus. And he flipped. He turned. He slingshot. Boom. Went the other way with things, right? Created the churches. Established those. So with those hearts of being able to be corrected, wanting to do God's will, we cannot do that. We're going to make excuses for ourselves over and over and over again if we don't stop and slap ourselves. I've said this a couple times. I'm not sure if I did it here or not, but I've done it with the younger kids, men. Slapping yourself is not a physical self-harm thing that I want you to do, okay? It's an acronym for stop, look, act, and prepare. So when something happens and it has a chance to go down negative town and the will of God is about to be disrupted, you just stop. Do nothing. This is what separates us from the animals. This is why evolutionary theory doesn't work. No lion just stops midway through a zebra and says, oh, you know what? I don't think so. Maybe I did something wrong here. Right? No gorilla, when ripping the arms off a chimpanzee, sorry for the graphics, stops and goes, oh, I'm really sorry I did that. Right? There's nobody to tell them that they did anything wrong. Okay? We're the only being on this planet that can do this in reason and be able to have the written word in our hearts. We know the right and wrong. You're not going to hear it if you don't stop your instincts from taking over. So then I want you to look. Stop. Look. Look at the situation. Look at what your problem is, right? Like we talked about the last time, the obstacles in our lives. Look at that for a second. Really wager with yourself, is this worth my peace that's within me? Is this really worth my peace that's within me? Look at the other person. Are they going through something? Is it, if it's an obstacle, if it's a person, if it's another problem, then once you've reasoned with yourself, decide what the best thing for you in your walk with Christ is, then make an action in accordance with that. That's going to look like, I'm sorry. That's going to look like, maybe we need to get some help in this area. Can I help you? Did I do something wrong? Did I break a rule and not know it? Right? That's your action piece, is asking for forgiveness in this situation. Whether you think you're right or not, have them explain themselves. Dig deeper. And then you're going to prepare. And you need to prepare for the negative. Because very few times with an altercation are you going to have somebody go, "Oh wow, you're a really good Christian. I'm glad you asked me." No, they're going to come up with some names, some choice outcomes. Maybe you get physical with you. That's the preparation. Prepare to do this over again. Don't get in a position where God's hunting you down saying, "What are you doing? Why did you do this?" Those places that from defeat is what causes problems for our own hearts. So if we can stop ourselves before we get to that point, it'll be a lot better. You want God coming to you and saying, "Hey, I need your help in the garage. I need your help with the yard. I need your help with this project." You want God coming to you and saying, "Well done, my good and faithful." Yes. Not, "Where are you? What are you doing?" You don't want to be the guy that's being checked in on. If your parents text you frequently, "Where are you at? What are you doing?" That means you probably need to communicate with them a little bit more. Same thing with God. If he's calling on you, you feel that conviction, those heartstrings, talk to him a little bit more. Ask him for his will. Ask him, "Hey, Dad, what can I do for you?" Right? You want him to say, "Well done, good and faithful, come help me." Not, "What are you doing?" And so I prepared this because we're about to spend a good amount of time with each other. Okay? Things happen. Most of you have been there. Some of you, it's new for you. But it's going to be an awesome time. But there's going to be moments where there's disagreements. And that's totally okay. We're going to have those. But I want us to have the best time that we can possibly have being children of the Most High and enjoying each other and being responsible with each other's hearts and the peace that we have that we can share with each other. So let's go into this next week with a great time, with good hearts, and no regrets. Okay?